and welcome back to the David67 Celtic News YouTube channel. This Friday morning video is a wee roundup as best I can of all the ins and outs and rumours regarding the summer transfer window for Celtic. News in this video is as accurate as possible up to around about 11 in the morning, 12 noon on Friday the 27th of June. So, the stories are that Benjamin Nygren, the Swedish international, is now in Glasgow, going through the final parts of signing for Celtic. The expected signing date is next Monday, which is when Celtic's players will be coming back in for the start of pre-season. At that point, on the 1st of July, Nygren's contract with Nordsjælland will have gone past the 6 months to go mark, and it's also thought that there's the formality, or the hoped formality, of getting a work permit for Nygren. The transfer fee thought to be around about £1.5 to £1.7 million, which is a considerable discount on his value, which many have put around about £5 million. And it's thought that he is signing a 4-year contract with a 5th-year option. And I think he's going to turn out to be a very good player for Celtic. And as I said, the expectation is that deal is going to go through on the 1st of July, which is next Monday, the start of pre-season. Another deal that is expected to get confirmed at the start of next week is for Callum Osmand, the young Welsh international, currently part of Fulham's academy. It's thought that contracts, etc., have been confirmed, and it's just going to be a matter of a compensation deal, be it negotiated between Celtic and Fulham or going to a transfer fee tribunal. And so it is expected that Osmand will be signing for Celtic at the start of the week. Celtic, of course, have made 3 definite signings. In has come Kieran Tierney from Arsenal on a free transfer. In has come Ross Doohan, who had been playing for Aberdeen last season, made his Scottish debut. Both those are free transfers, either as their contracts were ended. And the other signing Celtic have made is the 17-year-old central defender Isaac English, coming from Morton, £50,000 fee, and he's going to go into the academy setup. Other players that Celtic are said to be in the process of advanced negotiations. One is Michel Onge Balikwisha from Royal Antwerp. It's thought that Celtic and Antwerp had stalled in their negotiations. Antwerp are keen to sell, Celtic are keen to buy Balikwisha. Balikwisha is keen to come to Celtic. However, there was a disagreement as to his actual value. It's thought that Antwerp were hoping for something in the region of £5.5 million. Celtic were looking to spend something in the region of £4.5 million, and it's now thought that Antwerp have dropped their asking price to £4.6 million. And we'll see whether that deal can get over the line. Celtic are said to have bid for Hayato Inamura, the left centre-back and left-back, currently playing in the J-League for Niigata. It's uncertain how much the actual bid was. Preliminary indications are that Inamura would be happy to come to Scotland to further his career, and at the moment the indications are that Niigata are considering the deal, but there's not been any progress in the last 5 days or so since the bid was reportedly made for him. Another name that Celtic reportedly did make a bid for several weeks ago was a young left-back called Harley Mills of Peterborough. It was said that Celtic had made a formal bid. However, that story has completely disappeared, and I suspect that the story, in essence, was false news. Other player that Celtic are said to have made a bid for is Veljko Milosevic of Red Star Belgrade, wanted by quite a lot of big teams in Germany, Italy, and England. It's thought that Celtic did make an actual formal bid of £5.1 million a couple of weeks ago, which Red Star Belgrade rejected. Thought that their asking price is £8.9 million, which Celtic were unwilling to pay. Later stories are suggesting that Red Star Belgrade appear to have frightened off quite a lot of the bidders and may, in fact, accept a £6 million bid for Milosevic, which still does seem quite a high fee for a 17-year-old, as yet unproven left centre-back who had a brilliant half-season in Red Star Belgrade's team on their way to the Championship. He is undoubtedly a very talented young player, could well be of the quality to go straight into a Celtic team, but at 17 would certainly be quite a risk to buy for such a high fee, but we'll see how that develops. There are a number of other players that Celtic are said to be interested in, strongly linked with, and players that Celtic have reportedly been making inquiries with the parent club, the primary of which is Matthias Kiesgarden. Celtic have been pursuing him for the best part of 2 years. There have been some bids apparently for him from Celtic to Brøndby, but Brøndby have always turned down the fee and have previously said up until now that Kiesgarden is not available. However, it does now appear that both Kiesgarden wants to leave and Brøndby are willing to let him go. Differing valuations for Kiesgarden, some suggesting 8 million, some 12 million, some even up to 14 million. And as yet, Celtic do not appear to have made a bid for him in this transfer window. Another player that Celtic were said to be pursuing in the winter window is Louis Barry, young wide player and striker who plays for Aston Villa. Barry would appear to have turned down the offer of a contract at Aston Villa, and Aston Villa are now willing to sell him, and he may be available. Differing prices for Louis Barry. The consensus appears to be £5 million for him, but as yet Celtic have not made a bid, and for a player with rather limited first team experience with Aston Villa, limited experience at a good level of football, it does seem a rather high fee, but again, a player thought to have tons and tons of potential and ability. Player who is more proven, David Strelic, currently playing for Slovan Bratislava. Again, Celtic did make inquiries to quite an advanced stage in the winter window, but no transfer was negotiated in the winter window. Slovan Bratislava also at that time said they weren't willing to sell him. It would now appear that they are willing to sell him. Strelic may be happy to come to Scotland. There are differing stories with that. And an asking price of 6 to 8 million has been put forward. But as yet, Celtic have not made a formal bid. But Strelic, I think, actually would do very well at Celtic and is that player with European experience and international experience and a good potential to do very well for Celtic in Scotland and in European football. But as yet, Celtic have not pushed the boat out to make an actual bid for him so far, as best we know. Another player Celtic are said to be pursuing is Shin Yamada, a very good Japanese striker, plays for Kawasaki, which was Ryo Hitate's club. Thought that Celtic have been told the asking price would be 1.5 million, but as yet Celtic have not made a bid for Yamada. Not sure Yamada's quite got the ability to be a Celtic number one striker on current form and performances, but I do think he is a player who would do well for Celtic in Scotland, but maybe not so well in Europe, but he could well prove us wrong, but as yet Celtic have not made an actual bid. Another player who has just come onto the radar, Moussa Baranji, plays for Everton in the Swiss leagues. They were in the Super League, they've now been relegated, and for that reason, they are looking to sell him on. 2.5 million is the asking price. That again is thought to be a bargain, as he has a contract ending in a year's time, and the club are keen to sell him, having been relegated. Some are describing him as being a smaller version of Victor Wanyama, who, of course, was a very good player for Celtic for a couple of seasons. He does look a good, powerful player. Actually, got good ball control, and is able to score a goal. Did a profile video for him a few days ago, which does show he is a good player, but maybe not quite the high quality player that we're looking for. But as yet, Celtic have not made a bid for him. Sondre Orsieter, a player that plays wide on the left, currently playing for Salzburg. Celtic were said to be pursuing him in the winter window. That story went away. It didn't appear at that time that Orsieter wanted to leave Salzburg, nor were they willing to sell him. They are now quoting a price of 11 million, which does seem rather a lot of money for a player of his ability and performances. And Celtic have not made a bid, and I would be surprised if we do follow through with the bid, given the fact that the asking price is £11 million, which does seem about double what he is worth. Another player that Celtic have been making inquiries for, but doesn't appear to have gone any further than that, is Andy Irving of West Ham, central midfielder, recently made his full Scotland debut. Does appear that he has fallen out of first team plans at West Ham. Again, not convinced he is the high quality of player that we require to upgrade our midfield. Don't feel he's any better than Luke McCowan or Paulo Bernardo. I actually personally would put both of those two ahead of him in terms of ability and performances. And there's been no further change in Celtic's non-bidding inquiries regarding Irving. Final player that many people thought was rather promising was Damir Egi Tiknaz, was on loan with Rio Ave in Portugal. His parent club is Besiktas. Rio Ave did not make the purchase clause of the loan deal between Besiktas and Rio Ave, which was a bit of a surprise. It's now gone back to Besiktas, and his head coach manager there, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, has decided he wants to keep Tiknaz and incorporate him into his first team squad. And indeed, over the summer, Tiknaz has made his full Turkish debut. And I think he's a player destined for high things, but it does look like he'll be playing in the next couple of seasons for Besiktas instead of coming to Celtic or going to any other club. Moving on to players leaving Celtic, it does appear that Greg Taylor is on the verge of signing a 3-year deal with PAOK in Greek football. It does appear he's turned down all the offers from Celtic, and PAOK appear to be the only club to have actually come through with a proper formal bid with him on a contract offer. And the stories are that Taylor is on his way to Greece to complete the medical and then sign a 3-year deal with them. Other player for whom there are a lot of interest is Nicholas Kuhn, Red Bull Leipzig in Germany. Apparently are considering a bid of between 15 and 17 million pounds. Como in Italy have recently put their hat into the ring, showing interest. Newcastle and Brentford in England have also shown an interest, as have Aston Villa and several other English Premier League sides. Red Bull Leipzig do appear to be the top of the list, but have not as yet put an actual bid in for Kuhn, and simply at the negotiations, inquiry, discussion stage. Johnny Kenny, our young Republic of Ireland striker, apparently Celtic have turned down a £500,000 bid from Bolton. I think Kenny's worth an awful lot more than that, given his age, his international experience, and his ability to score at the lower level in European competitions. And I personally would be quite keen to keep Johnny Kenny one way or another at Celtic, possibly sending him out on a season-long loan to another Scottish Premiership team to give him weekly first team football, leading the team. But we'll see how that develops. Number of Celtic's top players have been showing getting interest from a variety of clubs. Cameron Carter-Vickers, Dyson Maeda being two. Neither player has had any formal bids or full inquiries for them. And I think personally both players have expressed the desire to stay at Celtic, and think very unlikely either will be leaving this summer. Another player for whom there's been interest, but no more than interest, no actual bids or offers, Arne Engels. A couple of clubs in the Serie A in Italy have expressed interest, but no actual bids. And again, I don't see Celtic selling Arne Engels on, with him only having been at the club for 1 year. And I think in the next couple of years, Arne Engels is going to start turning into a more and more impressive player as he gains more and more experience in Scottish football and European football, and potentially international football for Belgium as well. Rio Hatate, who at the moment is still recovering from injury, there have been vague expressions of interest in him. I think of those four experienced first team players, Hatate's the most likely to leave this summer. He has stated in the past that he's keen to try himself at a higher level, a bigger, richer club. There doesn't appear to be any actual active interest in him, no offers, no full inquiries. But I do think possibly towards the end of the transfer window, Hatate may leave the club, although his current injury does probably put off a number of bidders. Celtic also have a number of players who are returning from loan. There have been some expressions of interest in them. Luis Palma had been at Olympiacos. They decided not to take up the purchase clause in the loan deal. He's back at Celtic. There are quite a number of teams expressing an interest in Luis Palma. 2 or 3 of the other top teams in Greece have inquired about him, but no actual bids as yet. Gustav Lagerbielke had a brilliant season at FC Twente in the Dutch league. However, they have decided not to take up the purchase clause, and they are looking at a more experienced centre-back to form a partnership for them for next season. Gustav Lagerbielke is back at Celtic. It is thought that SC Braga in Portugal have now put in a £1.7 million, €2 million bid for him. Not clear whether Celtic will be happy with that, because that would be about half as much as we paid for him a couple of summers ago. Also said to be a number of English Championship clubs have been making inquiries about buying Lagerbielke as well, but no actual club names have become evident as yet. Stephen Welsh back from Mechelen in the Belgian league, apparently had a good season there. Mechelen have been considering making a purchase with Welsh. Other team looking to purchase Welsh is Ferencváros in Hungary, although neither have put in an actual bid. And there was no purchase clause in the loan deal between Celtic and Mechelen last season. Mike Nawrocki, who of course spent the last season at Celtic mostly sitting and watching the team from the stand, did have a number of actual pretty good performances. Did very well against Rangers, coming in at the last minute. There was a loan or purchase offer from Pogong in the Polish league. That was a couple of weeks ago. That seems to have gone away now, and at the moment there is no active interest in Nawrocki. Kwon, who spent a successful time at Hibs at the start of last season, he developed 1 or 2 wee problems with injury and lost his place in the first team squad. Hibs didn't take up any offer to buy him. However, there appears to be a £1 million offer on the table from Austria Vienna in the Austrian Bundesliga. But again, that deal An offer was put forward about a week ago, but no progress has happened as yet. Final player who is back from loan away is Marco Tilio, who had a brilliant half season with Melbourne City in the Australian A-League. He spent most of the first half of the season on loan there injured, came back in at the start of 2025 and apparently had a brilliant 4 months, helping Melbourne City to win the A-League final. Marco Tilio very keen to resurrect his career at Celtic. There is apparently an offer on the table from Melbourne City to take him back on loan for the 25-26 season. Although I do suspect from rumblings coming out of Celtic that Brendan Rodgers is looking to try and give Marco Tilio a full go in the pre-season friendlies and training to see whether he can step up to be a temporary replacement for Jota, and potentially jumping ahead of Forrest and Yang and any other players purchased behind Maeda and Kuhn, depending on whether Kuhn stays. And of course, Nygren will be moving into, I would guess, probably the number one slot on their wide right for Celtic, assuming his deal goes through as expected on Monday. So that just about finishes off this Friday morning roundup. As I said, all the updates are accurate as best possible at 11ish, 12ish on Friday morning. And as we finish, just a wee polite suggestion and encouragement for all those not yet subscribed. Please do click that subscribe button and do feel free to pop your thoughts into the comment section regarding any of these players or stories, etc. And so until the next video, goodbye and hail, hail.